We're really, really thrilled to be kicking things off today with a talk from Michael and Wendy from Kynren. So some of you may have heard of Kynren, some of you may not have, but it's going to be a brilliant session of about half an hour and then 10 minutes of questions afterwards. But if you could join me in giving them a big round of applause, Michael and Wendy.
Thank you, Matthew. It's a lovely introduction. I want to acknowledge how bizarre it is to stand here hearing the background noise of Olympia with no idea if you can hear me at all. So if you can keep us right during this, if there's a point when you can't hear us, don't just look bored. Stick your hand up and let us know. That'd be great. So I'm Michael. I'm Chief Operating Officer for an organisation called 11 Arches, which is the production company behind the show Kynren. And I'm joined today by our Head of Volunteer Casting and Engagement, Wendy Wilshere. I'm going to lead you through the first sections of the presentation, and then Wendy's going to cover the most important bit, which is the brilliance and magnificence of our volunteers. But I wanted to start with a few questions. Okay, these aren't designed to make anyone feel bad. It's not a pub quiz. We're not marking, but I'm just interested because when we come to this kind of thing, we're never quite sure whether people can answer these questions. Okay, so the first one. Okay, have you seen Kynren? Now, our chief exec is in the audience, so I really, really hope one hand's going to go up. And a friend of mine who I know was there last year is in the audience. So we've got 2 for sure. 3, thank you, sir. I don't know who you are, but you're my new best friend. Thank you. Okay, have you heard of Kynren prior to us standing in front and talking to you? Okay, good. So that's a few more hands. We're getting better. And could anyone point to Bishop Auckland on a map now? Let me be real. I grew up in North Yorkshire, which is basically next door. And up until about a year ago, I couldn't have. This isn't designed to make you feel bad. It's actually designed to show, I guess, the unique nature of the project, both how much work we've done and the fact there is some work to do. Bishop Auckland is here. Okay, so it's right in the heart of the industrial northeast. You'll see to the north there's Newcastle and Sunderland and Durham, directly to the east Hartlepool, and to the south Middlesbrough and Darlington. It is in the heart of the Durham coalfield. At its height there was 8 pits in Bishop Auckland, so it's a huge former mining community. It's next to where the railways were born, and we'll talk about that more in a minute, but it's the 200th anniversary next year of the first railway, the Stockton to Darlington Railway. So the northeast is going to be having a jamboree. And it's the home of the Prince Bishops of Durham. For those of you who don't know about the Prince Bishops of Durham, they were a hugely powerful group of people who were second only to the king. They had the power to raise armies and mint their own coins. And this is what County Durham, this is what Bishop Auckland sees in its history. The Prince Bishops, this huge mining town. And then suddenly you see the roots of collapse. In fact, I've missed the most important one. Who knows who won the first World Cup? Who's a football fan? Who won the first World Cup? No one say Uruguay. Bishop Auckland, yes, I'm on there. So the first World Cup was an amateur club World Cup, and it was won by Bishop Auckland, which is just this amazing fact. They actually won it twice in 1909 and 1911. So the town's got a huge amount to be proud of, but is now has struggled in the last 30, 40 years with the decline of industry. It's home to 3 of the most deprived wards in the county, including one of the most deprived wards in the whole country. It's a place of challenge where there's generational unemployment, where people don't have access to learning and skills, where the job market is poor. And so one of the things we want to do is drive the regeneration of that town. They are brilliant people. I'm surrounded, in fact, by some of the brilliant people of the Northeast, and I'm a Northeasterner myself. And what we want to do is use culture as a tool to support everyone there. And I just want to make one note. I'll talk later. Bishop Auckland's had some levelling up funds, right? And I don't want to be political because I don't believe politics is important, but I want us to be careful about the phrase levelling up because it creates an homogenized group of people who need support, right? These are all individual communities with their own heritage and their own history. Ours is mining and railways and Prince Bishops, right? But it's different again in Burnley. And it's different again in South Yorkshire. So I think we need to break those things apart and understand the individual communities, because without doing that, how are we going to support the people? If we treat them as a blob, we're never going to be able to truly support people. Okay, I was going to say I'll get off my soapbox, but not for about 10 minutes till I finish my bit of the presentation. So what is Kynren? Okay. Kynren was established in 2014 and opened on the 2nd of July in 2016 to its first performance. It is an incredible piece of performance art. It tells 2,000 years of the history of the Northeast in 90 minutes using a cast and crew of 1,000 volunteers. It is amazing. We perform to up to 8,000 audience members per night over the summer. We've got 8 shows this summer. I'm going to say this again at the end, right? But the Northeast is great. and we're a brilliant thing. So come and see us, please. You'll have a good time. We were nominated for the best event for groups last year. So if you're part of a group, if you're part of a U3A or a WI or any group, then do suggest that to your organisers and come up. But look, for now, I am going to put on screen some images of our volunteers for you to have a look at. It's just a minute-long video, and then we'll carry on. Okay, I hope that gives you a sense of the scale and the slightly bonkers brilliance of what we do. It's huge, and I think it's interesting to consider how it came about. I talk about what Bishop Auckland is and what it's like as a place. So how did we end up putting on this huge outdoor theatrical spectacular there? And to explain that, we have to go back about 15 years. In Auckland Castle, there's a set of paintings by Francisco de Zurbarán, one of the Spanish greats. And those paintings were at risk. They were for sale and they were at risk of leaving the country. And a chap called Jonathan Ruffer and his wife Jane decided, he's a huge fan of Spanish art, decided to buy the Zurbaráns. And in doing so, created a link between him and Bishop Auckland. Now, Jonathan's from the Northeast. He's a hedge fund manager, and I know for some people that's a dirty word, but he is. Ruffer LLP is a very successful financial fund manager. And they decided to invest, having bought the Zurbaráns, invest more in Bishop Auckland. That is, I'll talk more about our sibling charity, the Auckland Project, in a second. That's through the Auckland Project and ourselves. And for us, there was this idea to put on a performance event for the community, which involved developing a show, building our 7.5-acre stage, 7.5-acre stage. My background's in theatre. Stages are measured in meters, not acres. It's crazy. And being open to new ideas. I just want to touch on this. These three words at the bottom are the most important thing, right? Resilience, trust, and hope. We went to a community in Bishop Auckland that is not that trusting for all the reasons mentioned earlier of authority and people. And we said, we want to do this brilliant thing. Will you help us out? And they put their trust in us and they put their hope in us. And as we've developed over the years, they've been resilient with us to help us create this magical, magical thing. So without those people, who Wendy will talk more about, we wouldn't be there. But those three words are so, so key to our endeavours. Okay, so what else is happening in the Northeast today? The Auckland Project, whom I just mentioned, are our sibling charity. They have Auckland Castle, which is the home of the Zurbaráns, and the former home of the Prince Bishops, and beautiful gardens with 2 new gardens opening imminently, which are great. There's a Spanish gallery. This is a Spanish gallery with works by Goya, with works by Dali. It is uncanny that it would be in Bishop Auckland, but it's there and it's amazing. There's a mining art gallery telling the story of miners' art between the First and Second World Wars, which if you're a person who's got an interest in local history and heritage, it's an unbelievably powerful space. Last year, they opened their Faith Museum, which tells the history of faith in the Northeast. I thought it was going to be a history of Christianity. I was completely wrong. It starts pre-faith and moves through all the faiths, discusses modern faith, including atheism, and it's so worth a visit. Okay, and they've got hotels, restaurants, and more. They're brilliant. Obviously, they're a sibling charity. I'm going to say that, but it's great. Come up, see us all, have a good time. Then we've got Beamish, the Living Museum of the North. I hope you've heard of Beamish. It's this magnificent space that's just undergone a 10-year, £20 million development to make a future space. So there's new spaces, new villages, new towns. I was there on Bank Holiday Monday. It's brilliant. Wendy used to work there. Matt used to be involved. We will proselytise for it. Come and talk to us afterwards about it. There's Raby Castle, who are undergoing a massive development with new attractions opening this year. Bowes Museum, Durham Cathedral being the cathedral on the hill. For anyone who's a Newcastle United fan, I'm sorry for using that terminology, but if you haven't seen Durham Cathedral, you must. It's home to a shrine to St. Cuthbert, who, after he passed on Lindisfarne, his acolytes walked for literally decades. with him on a trolley and then settled and built Durham Cathedral. It's amazing. There's Locomotion, which is building a new engine shed, which once it's complete and open this summer will host the largest indoor collection of railway engines in Europe. And then Hopetown Darlington, a massive £35 million rejig of the Railway Heritage Museum in Darlington, which will be brilliant. I'm going to talk too long if I'm not careful. So I'm going to hand over now, because the most important ingredient of our success is our volunteers, and Wendy's our head of volunteers. So I'm going to hand you over to Wendy. Thank you.
I'm just going to put this down a bit because I'm a little bit shorter. Hello, and thank you for everyone for coming along today. I'm not sure how I'm going to quite follow all of that, but I'm going to try my best. So volunteers is what we do, what we love, and I'd like to say what we do well as well. There's lots of images and pictures of our volunteers. As Michael's mentioned, we've got a cast and crew of 1,000 volunteers. That's an awful lot of volunteers to organise, to look after, to make sure that they're well. They range from 5 years old, and our eldest is 85, and she is still performing in the show every year. She keeps saying, oh, it might be my last year, I'll go and do something a bit quieter next year behind the scenes, but she is still on stage along with everyone else. And if you think the stage is the size of about 5 football fields, that is a huge stage to get around and back and forward on. We call our volunteers archers, so that is what we call it. If we say the word archers, we just mean our volunteers. So the name of the charity 11 Arches comes because we are based under this huge viaduct which has 11 arches. So that's basically where all of that sort of comes from. And Kynren, if you're thinking, why have they called it that? Some people say to us, what's Kynren? What's the Kynren? What's Kynren? We get all sorts of versions of that. So Kynren echoes the old English word Kynren, but spelt with a C, and thinking of kin as in family, generation, next of kin. That's where that word comes from, and it's perfect for us because we have a lot of families involved, generations. It's there for the future as well. Now, I haven't learned how to click this button. I'm assuming I just press something. Which one am I pressing? Thank you. Fabulous. Thank you. So hopefully you guys can see this. So this is a little explanation of what our volunteers do and how we split everybody up. So we are based in 5 core teams. Our volunteers come from all sorts of walks of life. We have our children, our teenagers, the local postmen. We've got teachers, police officers, local business owners, students, absolutely all sorts of people come along and volunteer. Volunteers join us for lots of different reasons. Sometimes it's something to do with the whole family. So you can come with your children, the parents, the grandparents, the aunties, everybody's involved. And you don't have to be together all the time. You can be in different teams. So therefore, you've got something to talk about when you go back home as well. Sometimes it's for their CVs. Lots do come to us for loneliness, isolation as well, which is really, really important. Just having that, we're very much about people being face to face as well. That's a huge thing for us. Some to make new friends, and a lot do come to us because they want to do their bit for the area, but they don't know how to do their bit. So all these people coming together make that massive change in the local town where we live as well. We've got a lot of passionate people. They are really, really proud of the town where they live, and they want to put Bishop Auckland on the map. Hence, we're here today to let you know where Bishop Auckland is and what Kynren is as well. So our teams, so we have a show team. So for those of us who would like to have a go on stage, no experience is necessary. We don't do auditions or crazy things like that. We sometimes do something called a movement session, and it's very basic. People waving a left arm, a right arm with instructions just to see how they move. And we've got variations of our stage team. Some are more physical. We might ask you to run a bit. Some are a bit more sedentary and slower, so we can help you pick the best team for you as well. One really cool thing is that all of our staff are involved in some way, shape or form on show nights. That's really good as well. Michael leads up the operations side, visitor facing sort of side. I am a part of the show team as well. I've done that for the last 8 years. So I do actually get to perform on stage with swords and fire, and that's really, really cool as well. So show team, our cast, our props, we've got a huge props shed. We've got a lot of volunteers who love to make things. They make things from like shields to absolutely full-size huge props, from the replica of locomotion train. We have made absolutely all sorts. Our costume team, we've got a huge costume team who make an awful lot of costumes. So a lot of what you see on stage is all made by a very talented bunch of people. And on show nights, they're in every team room helping the show teams dress and fix things. So again, they get really, really involved in the show as well. Something called a go team. People say, what's the go team? It's literally as it says, they tell you to go. They tell you to stop as well. Okay. So at the side of the stage, just make sure that everyone gets on safely with that amount of people, animals involved as well. So we have a fabulous, super organized, dressed in black like ninjas. They are a go team, and that's volunteer led as well. Our experience team, you can volunteer for that. That is our meters, our greeters. They have on the red jackets. They are the most super welcoming people ever. Northeast hospitality friendliness is a big thing, and it absolutely shows in masses through these guys. They're the first people our visitors meet, and the last one is to wave them off on the buses on the way home, and they're absolutely fantastic. We have our cavalry teams. We have a specific team that specialises in horses. So we've got about 39 horses on site at the moment. Our latest one joined us about 3 months ago, Cosmo, a huge Shire horse. He's been in the Times newspaper already, front pages of the local papers. He's a very popular horse, basically. So our cav team, we have riders. We've actually got some very skilled riders, and we've got some riders medium learning. We've got carriage driving. We offer our volunteers free carriage driving training, which is normally a really expensive thing to get, but we've got a whole team of fantastic drivers, and they will teach volunteers how to drive carriages in the show as well, and lots of grooms and helps as well for that one. Our operations teams, we're getting into the technical side of things now. We've got a first aid team who are all volunteers. We've got quite a unique first aid team. A lot of our first aid team work in emergency rooms of hospitals. We've even had some consultants and surgeons, so absolutely overqualified by far first aid. But again, they're a fantastic group of people who obviously help us an awful lot. We have rescue divers. So we have rescue divers because part of our stage, our huge stage, is a lake, and things happen in that lake. Things come out of the lake. People dance on the lake. People fight on the lake. We even have stunt diver volunteers. So we put the stunt divers through all of their diving qualifications as well. So again, you can really get an awful lot. Whatever you would like to do, there is lots of options for that one. The words are getting smaller on my screen. We have our operations teams, our show ops. So again, working our lighting, our sound. So the tech team is also a part of that, sound, lighting. We've got lots of special effects. So we have volunteers who blow things up as well. We have a pyro team, and we highly encourage them to blow things up. And what a fabulous way to recruit new volunteers. Would you like to blow things up? So again, they get trained in pyro, they get the skills they need, and they work with professional teams as well. So we don't just let people loose with loads of fireworks. But we do have an awful lot of fireworks and stunts and pyro involved as well. The training that we give to people, they get professional level training. So for our movement on stage, we have some mass movement choreographers, 2 ladies at the moment who come to us, and they've worked on Olympic Games opening ceremonies for many years, and they go all over the world. So we, with myself as well, we help teach them what they need to do, where to wave the arms, the legs, the lefts, the rights. Imagining to put all of these people on stage is a huge task. So our shows are from July till September, and we start training around February, March time in little segments and pockets of people. This weekend is actually the first time for the season where we all come together. So we're rushing back up north this evening, and we've got an awful lot of people coming on stage again for the first time to put all of these little pockets back together as well. The visitor experience team, we've got really good training for that. They do the bronze, silver and gold awards. So they don't just get given, here's a red coat, go and say hi to people. They go through an awful lot of training with the welcoming side, dealing with disgruntled people. Hopefully we don't get that many, but we may get some, and just how to change that person's attitude and feelings and thoughts to not be disgruntled anymore and to go away smiling. And that is a skill in itself as well. I've mentioned dive team, I've mentioned first aid and pyro. I'm just going to move my way down the screen. So some of you might be asking, how do you get so many volunteers? 1,000 is an awful lot of volunteers. We work really, really hard. I mean, obviously we've got I think a really cool thing that people actually do want to do. So that makes our jobs a little bit easier. We have something called open calls that we do. So once the show season ends in September, it goes through to about April when things really pick back up again. Every month we have an open call on site, and we invite anybody who might be interested down to come and find out more. So we give them a little bit of an explanation of what we are, a little bit of a behind the scenes tour that visitors wouldn't normally get to see. And then this is the really magic bit. All of our volunteers are split into volunteer teams. We've got nearly 30 teams of all the different things that I've said. And each one normally has at least 2 volunteer team leaders, and they look after their teams. Pretty much every volunteer team leader does come down by choice to our open calls because they love to be there and they love talking about what we do. So basically we have all of our volunteer team leaders down, split into our 5 core areas, and the people coming to find out more can freely go and talk to them and ask whatever questions they have. And somebody might think, I'm going to come down and I want to ride that horse. That's all I want to do. That's fine. But some might not have a clue what they want to do. And we just encourage them to go and talk, ask lots of questions. Different volunteer roles have slightly different schedules. So again, they can find out the best fit for them. If they're going to come with a child at a young person, again, they can find the best roles that work the best with each other if it's to do with logistics, transport, getting there. As well as having the open calls, we do a lot of outreach. So we will go and have stands at street food markets, fairs, lots of local events. We do talks in colleges. So there is a lot of legwork. You can put up a poster in a window saying we want vols, but to me that only gets you so far. It's the actual being out there. We take teams of volunteers with us and literally just standing back and watching them talk. Their enthusiasm and passion to me is the biggest deal breaker. That is what gets people to come and get curious to just go and find out more as well. Okay, so just a few facts. So our wonderful archers have been awarded the Queen's Award for voluntary service. We didn't just pick one because we like all of them. We put them all up for it and they all got this fabulous award. And that was a really big deal for us. The Lord Lieutenant of the county came down, did a nice big presentation, and our archers are super, super proud of that. It makes them feel good, valued, included as well. I've mentioned about dividing into the 30 teams. I may have bounced slightly left and right with this, but that's okay. We do our schedule for the whole year and at the start of the year. So for someone like me who likes to be organised, that is super helpful, even as me when I was just a volunteer as well, for people just to know the plan. So we have a schedule. It's quite detailed. It's almost overly detailed, but that's good. You can stick it on your fridge, and whatever team you're in, you can see exactly when you're due down at site, what you're going to be doing, what room it's in, who's going to be training or working with you. So you can literally plan your schedule. We do say to volunteers, we know you have a life too. You might have holidays, you might have things you'd like to do, and that's absolutely okay. You come to as much as you can, but by us being organised and giving them that, it means we have the best possibility of people being able to be involved because they sort of know what's expected. And sometimes they'll even book their holidays around the dates we've got. I had a new volunteer in my team last year, and she had a 11-year-old son with her who was in the children's team, and they'd only just joined us. They'd done about 2 shows. The son was loving it amazingly. And then the son said to the mum, because they had a 3-week holiday booked in Somerset, which is quite far away in the middle of the season, "Mum, can we holiday in Bishop Auckland next year, please?" And obviously they didn't do that, but what a cute thing to say, that I really want to be involved with this, and like, yes, I want to go away, but I really want to do this as well. So again, that's lovely things to see as well. We do have great social events and parties, so after show parties, events, just a chance to people to mingle and unwind as well, whether that's fire pits, a very sensible little drink, maybe some burgers sort of thing after. So again, it's quite social, so it brings back that people side of thing, which to me as well, it is really important as well. Next. So just a few fun facts, because I thought you might like some fun facts. So our volunteers, mainly by volunteers, have made more than 40,000 costumes and accessories. So if you are part of the show team, you do not play one role. So for example, my team is the dance team. We may be trained in 9 or 10 roles, and maybe in every show we will do about 6 of them. And it changes every show, so we can swap and mix and match, and that makes it fun and exciting. But it's not all the same old thing for the last 8 years sort of thing. So again, our costume team's absolutely amazing. And some of the costumes that you see, our largest prop is a full-size replica of Locomotion Number 1, and it moves and it works. It goes across the whole stage. It has people in the carriages. It has horses twirling around, going round as it goes past. It's a really exciting, joyful scene. But what a prop to make, especially with the anniversary of the trains. If you like trains, that's the thing to do. As I mentioned, our youngest volunteer is 5 years old and our eldest is 85. So we have our dedicated children's team. Children are in the show team. That is what they do. They have volunteer chaperones in with them, and that allows the children to be able to go onto stage safely in small groups as well. And even though the parent or a responsible adult needs to be involved, they don't have to be with their children in that team. They can if they would like to be, but you could have child dancing and performing in the children's team. Mum might be having to blow things up. Dad could be on the tech team, or he might be a Viking. Again, it's actually so exciting for people to come together at the end of the day and say, oh, this is what we got up to today. And this is my favourite fact. So every performance, we get to set our CEO on fire. Who can say that? So our CEO is actually sat over there, and she'll hate me having to say that. But she's also an amazingly talented horse rider and stunt rider. And if a stunt needs to be done, she will always make sure that she can do it first safely herself. So if you ever see someone in the show on fire, that'll be our CEO. I did say we really get involved as staff as well, and we really, really do for that one. Is it what we got next? I'm going to pass you back.
Okay, I'm really conscious of time, so I'm going to whistle through these so that if anyone's got questions, we've got time for them. So I want to talk a little bit about the impact. The first of which is that we've delivered over 200 performances on our site, which, if you think about it, is really amazing, because all of that effort, all of that trust, all of that resilience, and all of that hope is what made that happen. And that's been a wonderful thing. If you could join us post-show, you would feel the exhilaration coming off our volunteers after a performance. So that in and of itself is a piece of brilliance. With our sibling charity, we've brought hundreds of thousands of visitors to the area, which has had a big impact on local business. And if you could see Newgate Street, which is the main thoroughfare in Bishop Auckland town centre, you'd see 3 building sites on it as investment comes back into the city after literally decades of underinvestment, which is a brilliant, brilliant thing. I've used the words levelling up here, and I've annoyed myself by doing so, but there is national interest in what we're trying to achieve, and we're working on major projects to help support the town's development. And there have been measurable improvements in wellbeing, community and education. And for us, one of the most important of these is how our volunteers self-report on things, and they self-report that they feel better as a result of volunteering for us. They feel better. Can you imagine what a privilege that is for us to be able to do that, to go to work every day and know that you are having a positive impact on people's lives whilst making art? I mean, wow, we're totally blessed. And I hope it comes across from Wendy and I, the pride that we have in the place and what we're doing, and the pride our volunteers have in their place and what they're doing is enormous. And it's why we're so eager to share what we're doing with people and to invite people to come and join us, come and see what we're doing. And do ask us questions. Wendy and I will hang around for a little bit afterwards. So if you don't get a chance or there's something you want to pick up, please do come and find us. We promise you'll have a good time. And we would also urge that you just watch this space. There's some big stuff coming in Bishop Auckland between now and 2026 and then 2030. So keep an eye on the news. And remember, we were here. Great. Look, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for being here first thing in the morning. We were worried there was going to be 2 people and it's nearly a full house. And I only had to pay some of you. So I'm really grateful. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Well, that was a good way to kick it off. One person here, I saw them write down, set CEO on fire. So you can work out who wrote that down. So we have got 5 minutes or so if anyone's got any questions. We've got a hand mic and Wendy and Michael will be able to answer some. So should we start at the back if that's okay?
Thank you so much. That was so interesting and looks incredibly fun. And the risk assessments, I can't even imagine. But my question is around team sort of communication with such a large sort of group of volunteers. And I know you've got the 30 volunteer team leaders, but I suppose how do you kind of communicate as an organisation to all those different people? Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so just as a bit of a fun fact, I've actually been working there for 12 weeks now. But I've been volunteering there for 8 years and working in parts as well. So there are lots of changes on the way. For a little bit of background, I was volunteer manager at Beamish Museum for the 8 years prior to this. My background is working with lots and lots of volunteers. So we're a bit old school at the moment, the way that we get in touch with our vols. We are using MailChimp, which I'm sure a lot of you might be quite familiar with. And that is our prime way of getting information out to volunteers, whether that's serious stuff, whether that's fun stuff as well. We do have an awful lot of things in the pipeline of how we're going to change that and spice that up a tiny bit as well. But it actually works really, really well for us, just the most simplest form of MailChimp as well. We do obviously only have one site. If you have volunteers over many, many sites, I know that makes it much, much harder. But when we're all back on site, like this evening, we have the chance on the Tribune to have all of our volunteers together to do lots of like little talks, reminders as well. So a lot of our stuff is in person as well. Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. Should we come to the front?
Thank you. You mentioned that you have open calls for various volunteers, and you have people who don't know what they want to do but know that they want to do something. How do you actually direct them to the right place? I mean, do you have a questionnaire? Do you do something else?
No, so with the open call, it lasts for 90 minutes. We try and keep it quite short and sweet. We don't want people to be there forever and ever. And it's the last half an hour. So for the first hour, that's when they get their behind the scenes tour. We've got about a 15, 20-minute video of where we came from, how we built up, just for a bit of background. And then just like the slide I talked to you through with the 5 core areas, we sort of touch on that just to give people a bit of an idea. And what honestly, it's the simple back to basic things. We have 5 nice, huge signs. We've got a huge space, a nice big Archers Hall. And on that sign, I've got the 5 core teams writing, so it's easy to see. And our team leaders go and stand at their sign. It is as simple as that. And as I say, by that point, we just highly encourage people, please do go and talk to everybody or aim for the one that you want. Even if you think you know what you want to do, talk to the rest anyway. And basically, when they feel like they've done enough talking with team leaders, most importantly, we ask them as they leave us to come to us. We have all of our boards ready, and they give me an expression of interest of what team they think. So we don't promise them, because for certain teams, you do need to have certain things in place. But we ask them to give us an expression of interest. So they might not know all the different team numbers for like the show team, but they might say, okay, I think I want to be on stage. I don't know what, but I'm like over 16 or I'm under 16, or I think I might want to blow things up. I might want to be a diver. So that's the expression of interest we get. And then the next day we will then go back and start working on applications, getting people signed up, sort of thing. And then for some things like the horses, there is a skills test as well. And that's actually one of our most oversubscribed teams. There's about 70 volunteers in our CAV team, and literally you almost can't take any more. We've got some incredible female riders who do stunts and jousting and amazing stuff. We could take 1 or 2 males, so any male horse riders out here want to do a bit of jousting, we'd have a little bit of space for that. But a lot of our females do fill our male roles with all of the costumes, helmets. You actually can't tell who it is. So again, it is almost a simple back to basics. Basics way, but it's a very much face-to-face talking, and we like that style. We don't want them to fill out loads of forms and do things online. Again, that may not work for you for where you're based, but for us, that people side, that's what makes the magic happen and makes people want to be there. Thank you.
I've probably got time for one more quick question. This gentleman, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really, really inspiring, actually. I just want to ask a question about sort of the community spirit side of things, because I work for a small charity, and we find that actually getting volunteers to come down to site is actually quite troublesome. So I'm wondering, do you get volunteers come from around the country to come and do this, or is it sort of specific to the area?
So the majority of our volunteers are from our local area, maybe from about 15, 20 mile radius. We do have a volunteer who comes from London, and she comes and stays on the weekend. She's up with friends, but it's then because we have our schedule out for a year in advance, she can literally plan her train times and diaries. We've had them from Leeds, we've had even had them from Wales before. So yes, we do get the odd one, but I guess because the project is so unique, there is nothing like this in the rest of the UK on this sheer scale and size, and the opportunities as a volunteer of what you could get to do. So that's really cool. But yes, we have a lot of local people. I mean, I think our town is about 24,000 people in Bishop Auckland, 11,000 households, and we have about 1,000 of those who are quite local as well. So that's a huge percentage of our town. If you go shopping in Morrison's or Sainsbury's or wherever, you will be guaranteed to bump into a volunteer somewhere. And the ratio to staff devolves. So we have about 17-ish staff at the moment, and an awful lot of also they outnumber us massively. So we have to be organised ourselves, otherwise it'd be complete chaos and bedlam as well.
Amazing. Thanks so much. What a way to kick it off. We're so honoured as the Association for Cultural Enterprises to have people like Wendy and Michael speak. Cool.